The same setup that gave a downside bias from about 29,500 to Bitcoin's current area is once again potentially about to signal off another setup, which could be confirmed as soon as tomorrow night, Monday, and maybe as late as about 5 days from then. Anyways, other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. Nice little Sunday morning over here. I want to say a major thank you to all the people who were giving more Wars movie suggestions on yesterday's video. I actually did end up watching Underground again, and it's so damn good. It's seriously so damn good. I love the fact that they actually have real witness firsthand accounts, in that movie. And yeah, I'll actually be watching some of the other suggestions. Anyways, that's enough of that. Let's get into the actual price action analysis. So what I was referring to at the opening statements here was that 2-day time frame volatility versus stochastic momentum signature, which did start to get that downside signal, right below 29,500 right here, which was giving us a downside bias in about middle of August. Now, in this case, this setup again is of course going to be what's the word that I'm looking for? No, not solidified. Done. It's done. it's done basically. When we do see the 2-day time frame stochastic oscillator across the other side. Now, with last night's closure, the current momentum pivot has actually moved down quite significantly, actually below current price action at 25,850. Now, if we go ahead and reference the data over here for all of the 2-day time frame downside signals, which we have right here. Now, if you have to add another one, it looks like perhaps as soon as tomorrow night, then we can see that the current results were actually somewhat reasonable, I would say. Now, when we're looking at the first standard deviation of returns for the winning trades, we did see a range between about 18.5% all the way up to 34%. And so far from that last high, which is how I measured these ones out for this time frame to the low, that was about just over 17% move. So I would say that that is, close enough to the context of the data. And if we do see this one cross the upside on tomorrow night's closure, I would look at that as, hey, that setup is now nullified, or it's not that it's nullified, like it worked out, but it's done. I need a better word. There's a better word, and I'm sure it starts with C, and I'm sure that someone very linguistically smart will let me know in the comment section, but it's just not coming to mind right now for whatever reason. Anyways, that would essentially be done with that, and then we can look to the next one, which as of right now, obviously if this one were to cross back onto the upside, it would be kind of meaningless within the context of current volatility. We can see that volatility is, well above the extreme lows, which I really want to see it below 10% before I start to look for expansions. But there is a couple things of interest right here. So now that I recognize that there is a bit of a regression going on from the last couple highs, if we do see this one turn down, on volatility going into a contraction phase yet again, then I would kind of be looking at this as, hey, that's a good setup or a good signal that we're going to see this one reset, and it's going to take some closures, obviously. Certainly several more periods. I'd say maybe about 3 to 5 before it starts to get quite low again, but that would hook around for another setup, and then we can start to go ahead and reference something that we haven't spoken about in it's got to be since June, since that rally from about, 25 all the way up to our current highs just below 32, which was the 5-day time frame, which is actually baking quite interestingly over here, as this one, we do see 5-day volatility, 5-day BBWP, representing volatility, I should say, is at that extreme low signature. And for right now, it is still angled to the downside. So this would, as of current moment, suggest that, hey, yeah, Bitcoin still more likely to go to the downside from here. However, this one is going to be closing tomorrow night as well, alongside the 2-day time frame. And as we can see, there is a nice trendline regression coming in from the last few lows, the last few lows right here, which very likely we will see tested either on tomorrow night's new period or 5 days from them, on the next period after that. And this has actually effectively called the lows going all the way back to June of 2022. Now, of course, that wasn't like the low, but these were major lows before getting ready for some pretty significant bounces. So June 2022, I believe we have another one right here before this, 30% bounce, it looks like, at 18,000 bucks. Then on, the current low for this cycle, and yet again on the low that we did see in June at about 25,000 bucks before that $6,000, $7,000 rally. So I do think that that is of interest. Now, if we start to see this one align with the 2-day time frame, that's at the point where I'm going to start to flip around to be bullish and start to say, hey, Bitcoin has been trading sideways here for quite some time. Very, very likely we do see at least a rally to like 27.5, and if Bitcoin starts to close above there, I'm going to start to look at this as, this price action right here as like a major bear trap in Bitcoin, very likely to return back up north of 30,000 bucks and probably continue on with the overall rally, as this would just kind of mark off the next higher low, thus also confirming hidden bullish divergence. Anyways, so that's kind of what's at stake for this next week, which is very important. And remember, this kind of goes hand in hand with the analysis that we were looking at on SPY last Monday for the very long term, going over the past 20 years, August months in pre-election years, and matching that up with the McClellan also to kind of call in lows in traditional markets. Now, Bitcoin doesn't have that exact same interpretation, but I can imagine that it would suggest that Bitcoin is either setting the low here in August, or maybe we see a little bit lower in September. At least that was the relationship for SPY. So, we'll be following up on that, I suspect, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, and we'll kind of see where we're at. But for right now, all these things, while boring as fuck, there is very important things actually happening in the background. So going over here, I've actually put on an inverted chart of Bitcoin. It's interesting to me in the sense that, hey, look, if you are bullish, you do expect a higher low exactly, or, a lower high exactly here. And we'd expect over the next 2 weeks, Bitcoin to come back down to 27.5. That also implies that if Bitcoin's bearish, we would expect continuation to the downside over these next couple weeks. But, for what it's worth, there would be potential hidden bullish divergence between this low and this low, correlating with this. Well, I should just flip it back around. Sorry, it's making it unnecessarily complicated. But if Bitcoin does start to creep its way back up above about 27.5 or so, again on a closing basis, that will start to confirm this as a local low, thus a higher low with lower lows on RSI oscillator right here and presumably right here. And of course, that would be hidden bullish divergence. But for right now, again, at least while the 5-day is still angled to the downside, I actually would be looking at this as bearish. And I just, now that I recognize, I shared this chart in the Discord yesterday. It's like my most bearish chart here. And this is kind of what I would be looking for, I suppose, if Bitcoin were to break down, somewhere around 22,000 bucks, very likely a bounce there. And then maybe it kind of, wedges its way out over the next year or so. That would be the more immediately bearish case. Obviously, the most, the more immediately bullish case is what we just went over. Bitcoin tries for a local low right here, verified by Bitcoin back above 27.5. And of course, we'll be able to kind of, document along the way as we have the likelihood of the probabilities twisting in that favor as we do monitor the 2-day and the 5-day time frame. So that's going to be very, very important over the next, I would say, 6-7 days now is what it's kind of coming down to. Anyways, not that it's changed or anything, but the 4-hour HBDR ranges, same fucking thing, aren't they? 25.4 to the downside. So I guess went up a little bit, to be fair, versus about 26, basically the high of this past week at 26.8 to the upside. Anything between there, irrelevant. But I just want to once again kind of speak about this move that happened, on, what was it, Thursday the 17th. Always on a fucking Thursday, isn't it? But again, this move was a move to the downside, this move to the downside was, let me go over here, just easier to see, was mostly done in one 15-minute dildo. And then after that, sideways AF again. It's kind of dripping down a little bit before that, certainly, but we didn't have like that big bad breakdown. And then Bitcoin just sideways for like a week and a half after that. What do you make of that? Well, again, it's like without continuation. I mean, the longer that it kind of spends here without continuation, the more and more it does make me think that this will inevitably be a trap. And of course, these setups over here will naturally reset in a more bullish fashion. So I'd still give it another, like I said, 6-7 days. It should be a very illuminating what we see tomorrow for the 5-day closure. If this number moves down significantly, and when I say significantly, I mean like it's got to move somewhere around like 27.5. I would start to look pretty good. then that's going to make me a lot more confident that Bitcoin BULAs do pull through here. Until then, risk remains to the downside, very similar to what we did see on the 2-day time frame, coming into the sort of middle-ish portion of August, getting that downside move. So I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. Yeah, 10 minutes long. Great timing on that one. I'll be signing off there. As always, I want to wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.